David Goss and Tommy Scoops here at SoccerWise. We are talking Seattle Sounders. In our season preview, we have a loaded preview for this one. We've had one guest for a lot of these. Sometimes we have two. This time we've got three. The co-hosts of Lobbing, Scorchers. We've got Ari and Noah. And then we have Jeremiah Oshan as well. All of them are across the Sounder at Heart family. But if you want to listen to the podcast specifically, it's Lobbing, Scorchers, and Nos Audietis, or however I choose to mispronounce it at whatever time we are at. Some of the best platforms covering Major League Soccer overall, and of course covering their team. Seattle is lucky, right? Seattle is a major team feeling in a major market. It is one of the behemoths of Major League Soccer, and we'll talk about it in this show, Tom, but they're going to do something again historic. They're the only team to ever play in a Club World Cup. Now they're going to host a group stage of a Club World Cup against three of the biggest teams on the planet. And like, I can't imagine a better club for it to happen for MLS people than this.
Yeah, this is going to be the first team in this competition that actually qualified on sporting merit for this award, and not kind of backdoor on the FIFA stuff. Yeah, Seattle Sounders, historic club in this league. What they do on the field is obviously one of the best of all time. The runs that they've had since the day that they got into this league, but off the field, I think, is really what makes them special. Is that fan support and that connection between this club and the city. And guys, like you said, the fans are lucky of this team, and it's earned because they pay for it. They have the appetite. They tell their local papers. They show their bloggers and fans that, like, hey, we'll consume all of this stuff because we're a rabid fan base. So shout out to the fans for that. But, like, they are a lucky fan base given all of these really, really incredible options for local coverage of this team. And, guys, it makes our jobs easier because these people are incredible. And, again, like, they're on the ground every single day essentially at training, and we get to pick their brains about their team.
It is one of the must atmospheres. If you are not a Seattle fan and you've never been, you got to get to this stadium. You have to get to the city. It's my dream of downtown stadium. You can walk to the games. Obviously, the march is pretty special, but like, it doesn't matter what angle you come from. You're able to sort of be in the city, then go to the game, then come back into the city. Club World Cup's going to be pretty special. The CCL final there, I think for me, was the peak of my experience around Major League Soccer. It was something I could very easily root for, and just the pure like excitement and energy. And we've talked about it a million times. We went out for extra time. We hosted an event the night before, and just walking to the stadium and having people yell like, we're finally going to win a CCL at us was just one of the best things I've ever been a part of. So I'm working on a plan for SoccerWise to be on the ground for Club World Cup, because I got to go up to the Central District and get my Ethiopian food. Maybe we'll go do a little hike, Tom. We'll start to get the 2025 grind going. We'll sweat out all the booze, and then we'll go to a game and watch Diego Simeone on the sideline trying to find a way to underlap on Alex Roldan when he's just getting roasted by one of the great right backs in El Salvador history. You're not ready for this, PSG. You don't want this heat, Botafogo. It is going to be such a crazy experience. Watching Jordan at Media Marketing talk about this and just be like, it's cool, man. Like, it's going to be fun. Like, it's just such a weird, like, there's no expectations, and yet it's Seattle, so there's some, but the expectations are that there are no expectations, and it's just this weird, like, I think they're going to have fun and play loose, and, like, that's kind of dangerous, because this is a good team.
You never fight a man with nothing to lose. That's all. That's what I always say, and that's the Seattle Sounders 2025 Club World Cup preview, and that's all I got.
That's all you need. We did get a little breaking news after the interview, or after this preview. Sounders are going to have some flexibility to pull some GAM forward and some additional allocation money to build out this roster. This is normally something you assume the teams had been notified, even though it hadn't come out publicly. Yes. So you assume Craig Weibel has been operating under this assumption, and we're now just understanding where maybe some of the confidence came to make a Jesus Ferreira, Paul Arriola trade.
Yeah, but they did that sustainably. We were talking about sustainable energy, all these good things. He just traded international roster slots to get Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola. It's incredible. Usually that was the Nashville move. Nashville would sell 6 of their international slots and then come back with a new starter with that extra money, or just keeping the team together. So well done to Craig Weibel in the front office.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they try and make any other bigger splash going forward. Most of the DP spots are held. Yeah, so it seems kind of hard.
And like the way the contract, same thing that Jordan Morris wasn't a DP last year. He hit bonuses that made him a DP for this year. Like that could possibly happen in the future with Jesus Ferreira or whatever the built-in contract is. Like it won't be max TAM forever. So they're at an excess with the designated player spot. So we'll see how they move all of those around as they can.
I know in our Discord, Marcus Rashford's been in there a ton asking about GAM and sort of like super curious about it. So maybe there's a loan that could be done where you bring an international player in on GAM and that team's able to then go and build a castle out of GAM and do something with it. Either way, we had a good time talking about this one. Let's go now to our preview. Let's continue on here in our season previews and let's talk about one of the big ones. One of the biggest teams in Major League Soccer, the all capital Seattle Sounders. We have a big preview here. A number of guests. We've got Jeremiah, we've got Ari, and we've got Noah. You know them all from either Lobbing Scorchers, who are all in their one box right now because they, I assume, are not allowed to record separately, or Nos Audietis, which I pronounced incorrectly, as I always do, from Jeremiah's side as well. You look shocked.
Well done, guys.
Well
done, guys.
That was great. I don't appreciate the Ohio State reference, but I'm so excited to be here.
I think I could tell you we just helped record an RSL preview that a lot of people would consider Seattle Sounders maybe the Ohio State of Major League Soccer, especially
so the West is the Big Ten.
In their words, yeah, exactly. In their words.
Well, now it does go sea to shining sea these days. On a serious note, Seattle Sounders fans are absolutely blessed with all of the content and local independent content. There's a lot to choose from, and not all teams have this. So Seattle Sounders fans that are listening to this, you guys have spoiled for choice here.
Absolutely. And if you're listening on the SoccerWise feed, go check out both these shows. You can check out Sounder at Heart as well for a ton of written content, both on the MLS and NWSL side, which is huge for all of us. And if you're listening on any other feed, welcome to SoccerWise. You just search SoccerWise, and you can find us anywhere you want. We like to start these things with a transfer update, where things stand right now. Tom, it has been, what I wrote in the rundown is the big story is the Super January Camp USMNT squad that Craig Weibel is putting together. Did you enjoy that?
I did, and I was a little disappointed because I was going to go with this is the greatest Gold Cup roster of all time that the Seattle Sounders have put together. So, as we're alluding to,
Suriname has no chance right now in the Western Conference.
So this offseason, their big additions were Jesus Ferreira, and re-signing Albert Rusnak and João Paulo were big. And, of course, Paul Arriola came from Dallas. And Kim Keehee, out of nowhere, he's back in the Seattle Sounders to add to the best defense in MLS in 2024.
So, I don't know. I'm just going to say Lobbing Scorchers here, and someone can choose to talk. What was the reaction as you heard the, maybe Seattle will trade for another FC Dallas starter?
Well, I think Noah and I, when we first heard about the Jesus Ferreira links, I think both of us were very intrigued by that immediately. I mean, just when you think about his pedigree, whatever you want to say about his U.S. men's national team profile, I mean, this is a best 11 attacker from 2 years ago. It's a guy who's got an 18-goal season on his resume. And it's one of those situations, which we pointed this out a lot, but if you had a player of this pedigree and resume coming from outside the league, the way it would get talked about is way different, and it would be way different. And I think most people know that. So that move in itself, the biggest storyline of this offseason was, could Craig Weibel improve this offense? This team scored 51 goals last year. That's not enough goals. They've got CONCACAF Champions Cup. They've got Club World Cup this year. It was very important to bolster this attack. I didn't think the bolstering would come from within the league like this, but now
just
that
FC Dallas.
Yeah, I'm definitely very high on that move. When we were grading the Seattle's offseason a couple shows ago, I said that move in itself gets an A. And I think even Paul Arriola, I was thinking about this today, I think he is a better MLS player than is being talked about. He's being talked about like it's kind of a replacement level throw-in of this offseason. I think it's pretty clear that he's been a plus MLS player throughout his career. So I guess that's a long way of saying that we liked the FC Dallas pilgrimage. And I know a lot of people are referring it to the 2019 Gold Cup squad derisively, but I hear that and I think 2019 Gold Cup squad that might actually play in MLS.
It might. And think about it. The Sounders are about to go and play their own Gold Cup, which is CONCACAF Champions League and Leagues Cup and whatnot. So it's like, who else would you want other than the guy who can score on various Caribbean nations at will?
Pirate of the Caribbean. It is
Exactly.
Johnny Depp himself in Jesus Ferreira. Let me ask you this question, Jeremiah. In the names going out and, Raul Ruidiaz being the biggest one, obviously a legend at Seattle, a big DP, Leo Chu in some of the trades to Dallas, and Nathan leaving as well, replaced by Kim Ki-hee, which is a legendary Seattle moment like in its own right. But Ruidiaz and Nico Lodero have left. And the replacements being a Paul Arriola and a Jesus Ferreira inside the league. Is there frustration at the level of replacement, or is there more excitement that from maybe a few stars, the money has been spread out across a couple of key pieces?
I think it depends on where you go looking for the answers. If you just go to Reddit or are browsing social media, I think you'll see a lot of understandable underwhelmness, if that's a term, where people had sort of built up the idea that they were going to go out and sign a big DP. They didn't do that. They didn't go outside the league and make a big splashy signing. And so I think there is some understandable frustration or disappointment over not getting that. But if you look at it in itself, I think you'll find a lot of satisfaction over what they were able to do within the league. I think generally, we did a survey on Sounder at Heart that got something like 1,500 responses. So it's a pretty good sample size. And generally speaking, people seem pretty excited about this year. They seem pretty satisfied with the offseason. Even Craig Weibel, who has gotten a lot of stick from a very vocal contingent, he even graded out pretty well according to the respondents of this survey. Again, it's 1,500 people. Pretty significant sample sizes, even if it is mostly Sounder Heart readers. So I think it's a mixed bag, but I think mostly people get what's happening here. Arriola is the lesser of the two signings from a name perspective, but like Noah and Ari said, this is a guy who was a DP. Mm-hmm. I think he was a DP last year. Yeah. He was, and he didn't have a bad season. He just is sort of. For what you're getting from him, maybe he's not producing quite at the level, but this is a guy who was a contender for best 11 2 seasons ago. He was, he was an all-star. Everyone loves him in the locker room. Yeah. Everyone at Dallas is talking about what a great guy this guy, how great he is. He came to Seattle and he said every right thing he could possibly say.
Sorry, Jeremiah. Just to add to this, that we haven't said it yet, he's hitting the cap at like 600,000 or somewhere in that ballpark. That changes the math on all of this. Paul Arriola as a DP, as a max TAM, I was good with it in Dallas, but moving forward, if Seattle made this deal and he was also max TAM, it would be really difficult because you'd really have to find the money for this. Getting him at this number is a phenomenal signing.
And Ferreira's not almost either. They managed to get Ferreira on TAM as well, which I think is great
for now. It is a long-term contract extension.
And a notebook out right now, so something weird's about to happen. I don't know if he's doing math about all these contracts or something.
I think we also talked about with Jeremiah on one of our streams recently how we looked at Paul Arriola's old contract. I mean, the Sounders effectively fleeced Dallas on both of these trades. I mean, this is insanely good business. People want to talk trash on Craig Weibel all day. Which, fine, some of it's valid. That's cool. That's his job, is to take the heat sometimes. But if you look at it from a pure business perspective, who wouldn't take this deal? Either of those deals. He kicked ass with this.
Yeah, this is, rather than having the Miguel Almirones of the world or whatever. I mean, I'm not even going to go into Messi because that's a whole other thing. Or Cuchos. There are borderline 5 DPs on this team, and that's the advantage over having 1 or 2, 3 great ones. Let's go to our designated player, Matt Doyle. Let's sit at the feet of the great philosopher of Major League Soccer, and let's see what he has to say.
I kind of feel like Craig Weibel cooked this offseason in getting Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola from FC Dallas and only having to send Anthony Davis the other direction. Oh, wait, no, that was the other Dallas team that was making bad trades. Look, Ferreira is essentially a DP in this league. I think if you got someone of his profile out of like the Colombian league, it would cost you $7-8 million. So the fact that Seattle were able to get him and just for GAM and get him on a sub DP deal, that is just masterful. And if you look at the Sounders now, they have the deepest team in the league. Like I have no questions about their ability to compete across multiple competitions at a high level. The only question I have, and I think it's a question that everybody will have, is do they have the match winners? Do they have the guys who, in the semifinals or final, will be able to make that special play, find that special moment, and get this team back into the winner circle? In 2022 and 2019, it was Raul Ruiz Diaz and Nico Ladero, and none of the guys on the roster now have been quite at that level. So whether it's Ferreira or Albert Rusnak or Jordan Morris, or I think the big hope is that Pedro de la Vega, year two, can be a real Gauss theorem guy. If he is, the Sounders are walking out of 2025 with at least a little bit more silverware.
Man, groupthink is a beautiful thing. We were all able to get together and have the exact same ideas. Jeremiah, give me your Pedro de la Vega hype. Where do you sit for him right now?
I'm pretty excited. You know, it was funny. Someone, or maybe it was his agent, I don't know, put together a highlight reel of his time with the Sounders last year. And if you cut it right, it's like glorious. You know, he made a ton of really good runs. He made, point being, you can cut this, you put some techno music behind it, and you can make Pedro de la Vega in a relatively short time look like he balled out last year with the Sounders. Now, we all know that isn't quite what happened. The final ball wasn't there for whatever reason. He struggled to get on the field for health reasons. We could go down a litany of things. But I think it was illustrative in the sense that he does have some real potential, and I think we've also seen it in preseason. Now, again, these are preseason games. These are against not exactly elite-level European opponents, but he's got a couple goals. He's got an assist. He looks like he has gotten into considerably better shape than he was ever in last year. He has this real young Patrick Swayze vibe to him, which I am absolutely digging. And I'm really hyped about him because this is a player who I don't think most people are coming into the season with very high expectations, and I would not at all be surprised if he goes for 8 goals, 8 assists, or even better than that.
Jeremiah, a couple quick follow-ups that I want to go to you. One, you said techno music. Was there actually techno music in the background? Two,
I think there was, yeah.
Two,
so he could also be a Serbian league signing.
It was dubstep adjacent, I have to say.
Was the caption Pedro de la Vega was a problem? Was that because that seems like that would fit there? And then 3, well, did you say 8 goals, 8 assists? Like we've all been super positive, so I'm trying to poke the holes here. That's a pretty kid glove friendly line to set for a player who was bought for $7 million. And last one was the Patrick Swayze reference because he was a ghost last year and just never trained for 3 days in a row.
That's a good line.
I felt good about that when you were saying. I almost had to write that down.
That was a good line.
Whoa, the notebook is out.
No, that was good. That was. I agree. 8 goals, 8 assists is a little kid glovey for expectations. If he can, but I think if he put in 8 goals, 8 assists, I think most people would be, if not over the moon about it. And it obviously depends on how he gets it and how it looks. But that's real production. And on a team that is as deep as this one, I would think that's if he's the 4th leading scorer at that, which I don't think is crazy to consider, that you'd be thrilled with it.
I agree, and it's all additive as well, just because of like again, exactly. Even last year, like I'm sure you guys would hear the same stuff of hey, even when they were working on that deal, it was like, hey, even if we don't sign him, we think we're really good, and so it'd be great. We would rather have him. We think he's an excellent player, but the baseline here, and so they've even gotten better, and their floor has gotten even higher over this offseason. That Pedro de la Vega is additive. No, and Ari.
Yeah, 8-8 might seem like it's setting the bar low, but think about this. Last year he had 1-1. The goal was a penalty kick, and the assist was literally a play where he was standing in the box, and the cross came in and hit him in the face and deflected right to the guy who scored the goal. So when you think about it through that lens, 8-8, like I would be thrilled with that. And like you guys said, I think that's about the baseline for all they need from him with the pieces around him theoretically. So for me, you really need to see him take a pronounced step forward this year. That's the X factor, I think, for this team's whole ceiling. And I will say, he has looked actively good so far in preseason for whatever that's worth. I know it's exhibition games and all that, but the goal, he scored 2 goals, and he has the nicest assist that anyone on the team has had in any of their preseason games so far. So I think that's reason for cautious optimism.
Man, when he wins the Ballon d'Or this year after winning the Club World Cup, that trivia fact about what was his first goal and his first assist for Seattle Sounders is going to hit so hard at Soccer Wise live trivia event. I just want you to know that. Everyone, store it in the back of your brains as you go along. Let me ask you about this.
It's just on the dubstep highlight reel.
Yeah.
It probably had to lead it, and it's probably the drop every time as you hit it. Club World Cup, June 15th to 23rd. Botafogo, Atletico Madrid, PSG. Noah, what's the expectations? What is this?
I'm so excited to see what the media meal is in the press box. That's kind of where I'm at this point. I'm excited to see what the fanfare of FIFA is and, enjoy my time in the spotlight, rack up some videos and some views. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think the Sounders are feeling the same way. What are you going to do? This is a group of death. How are you supposed to get out of this?
Yeah, I think my expectation, Club World Cup, you just gotta not embarrass yourself and set the league back like a decade. As long as you do that, I view it as mission accomplished. I'm not that concerned about them making a run at winning it. So,
but it would be funny if they win more than Miami. That'd be tight. That's kind of where I'm that'd be sick. That's where I'm going for.
Honestly, one win, again, I talk making fun of myself, not for kid gloves. One win in this group stage would be phenomenal. Even if they don't advance.
Undeniably.
Yeah. Honestly.
I actually would, maybe this is a hot take, but I actually think I would rather be in the Sounders position where they have a group of death than in Miami's situation where I think the random observer is going to look at that and go, oh, they should get out of this group. But it's actually a pretty tough group, and it's not really that much easier than the Sounders group. And I think there's more opportunity for them to sort of embarrass themselves a little bit. The Sounders aren't going to embarrass themselves. I mean, if they could get killed by PSG and Atletico, and people are still going to go whatever, those are 2 of the best teams in the world. What are you going to do?
Yeah. And the fact that everyone in the press box is going to be eating roast duck and tapas as you go into those games. Yeah, you cannot come in off the top rope after enjoying something like that in that game. For club or for CONCACAF, it's Antigua in the first round, a chance to most likely play Cruz Azul. After that, Sounders will be one of the teams playing in both CONCACAF and Leagues Cup and Club World Cup. So just for everyone who read the release that said MLS teams can only play in 2 cup competitions, that did not apply to Seattle Sounders and Inter Miami, which I didn't realize until I was getting ready for this show.
Well, it actually said 2 North American Cup competitions.
Wow.
They made a point of carving out. Yeah, they were kind of careful with it, I have to admit.
NASL's lawyers over here, Jeremiah. Yeah. Making sure that we
this is my lawyer, dog. I'm going to jail. No, that one's sorry, David. That's a little bit of a younger guy meme. I'm not sure if you'd get
it.
That
missed all of us. Don't worry. Don't worry, Gus.
Let me go with the real soul of the young people in Major League Soccer, Andrew Wiebe. He set his line for us on Jesus Ferreira, goals plus assists in MLS competitions only, 21.5. for the 2025 MLS season. Ari, you want to get us started? What do you go, over or under?
I mean, I obviously want to say over. I might say under just because I feel like it's going to be a pretty spread the wealth type attack. I don't know if there's going to be one guy who carries the stat sheet to that much of a degree. I think Rusnak is a guy who I could see pushing over 20 goal contributions again, just because he's the centralized focal point of the offense. I don't know if Ferreira with the rotation and how the wealth is going to be spread, I don't know if he gets over that.
That's a tough.
He could have a good year and not get over that, though.
Weeby's been living in Jersey long enough; he can set a line.
Yeah, I mean, that's man. My new bookie just dropped. I'm gonna go under as well. I don't think that it's gonna be a bad season for him, and he's looked insane in preseason. I love the way he plays and the positioning with him and Jordan and Pedro. It already seems like they have some good chemistry together. So maybe just barely under. But I'm going safe.
Tom?
I'm gonna go over, but the same concerns about like what if he's playing Champions League games and they rotate him out for regular season, you lose X amount of games. Like, I just think that this team is gonna put up more goals than last year, and with secondary assists in MLS counting, like, I have to assume Jesus Ferreira is gonna be involved in a bunch of these. I don't think he'll take penalties, right? Like, but if he gets penalties, then I'd feel even better about this. But I don't think he will.
Jeremiah?
Well, I guess I'll go with Tom just because that's a little bit more fun in this particular case. But I do think it's interesting that at 21.5, that's more than Morris had goals and assists last year, and last year was a pretty good season for Jordan Morris. So I think it's a fair. I just make the point that that's a reasonably high bar. But I'm gonna have some fun. Let's go over. I think that he's perfectly capable of having an equal season to what he had in 2022 when he was absolutely on fire, and he's surrounded by a much better team now than he's ever had in Dallas. He's going to have so much more support. I think that there's going to be a lot less pressure on him from the outside. It's a really ideal situation, I think, for him in a lot of ways. So let's go over and maybe even clear it by a few goals.
Last year, he was injured a bunch on a bad team. He had 11. The year before, he had 18. And then his big year 2 years ago, he had 24. I'm going to go over as well, and my hot take is that it's going to be more assists than goals. I think he's one of those people where he's like when you watch USA basketball gets together and Steph Curry's like, I'm not going to shoot. I'm just going to see if I can set people up. Like, feels like Jesus is going to see it pretty quickly and be like, this is fun. Playing Jordan into space and like playing off of Pedro de la Vega and creating space for Rusnak. And we haven't talked yet, but we had Obed Vargas on this show, and he was like, I want to score more goals. I want to be more dangerous, and feels like the team's set up for stuff like that. So I think Jesus is going to enjoy being the setup guy. But I think combined, it's going to go over. Doyle finished his Doyleism with like, there should be silverware. What should the expectation be this year for fans? Jeremiah, let's start with you. And like, what, if 2025 goes well, what did it look like?
It's the easy answer is to say they were competitive in every tournament they played in. I think to really call it a successful season, they have to win a trophy. They have to. I think the Sounders are at a point where it's impossible to call a season really successful. You can say it wasn't an awful season. You can say it was an okay season. But this is a team that defines itself, success for itself by trophies in the cabinet. And, I think that means contending for the Supporter Shield. It means contending for Leagues Cup. It means contending for Champions League. And it definitely means contending for MLS Cup. And between one of those four trophies, I think they have to feel like they should win.
No, if you had to pick one, what would be your guess of which one it is this year?
Everyone has been hating on me for this take, but I've been known to give some terrible takes, so maybe they're right. I feel like CCC, again, is achievable. I know that this sounds insane. Everyone's like, they have the hardest path, blah, blah, blah. You're wrong. I'm right. That's what I'm going to say. Like, honestly, if they can get past 1-2 rounds, the momentum, the Schmetzerisms, the depth of this team, the shithousery that they've already been through. A lot of these players have already played and won Champions League. I don't know. I'm feeling it.
So it starts with Antigua from Guatemala, and then it would be the winner of Cruz Azul Real Hope. And I don't know if it's pronounced that way. It's from Haiti. So
Real Hope?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I got real hope we're going to beat them. Yeah.
And then most likely it's the winner of a Chivas Club America.
Yeah. So this is going to be the Obed Vargas FU tournament where he says, 10 million's too much, blah, blah, blah. Give me 20. Give me 20.
Cruz Azul are going to put a bid in immediately after the game.
100%.
It would reverse any questions around, and I don't think there's a lot around 21, but it's like, the teams that have made it to CCL finals or tried to win in MLS history before had played at a Tigres, at a Club America at some point. Seattle didn't. If you turn around and you beat Cruz Azul and you beat Club America just to make it to a semifinal, I think there would be zero questions left. So I like that take. I'm on board.
Can I just interject really quickly?
You're gonna fight.
I've heard this claim
on this,
so many times before about how the Sounders did not have a very hard path to 20.
I knew it when God started saying that. I fucking
say
knew it.
They beat the reigning MLS Cup champion. and by the way, didn't have to play these games on the road. They beat the MLS Cup champion.
I don't
They
watch
beat-
MLS. Who won that?
Right. Exactly. They beat Leon, Leon won the title the next year. They won Champions League the next year, and somehow like beating Leon doesn't count. So I don't really know what people wanted. They beat Pumas was not what they once were, but Pumas beat Cruz Azul to get to the final. Like it was not an easy path, and I think actually someone put together sort of like an ELO ranking of the teams that they beat,
style.
and it was as tough as anyone's ever played.
Also,
Jimmer,
they
I
didn't
just want
lose
you
in
to-
Mexico.
I just want you all to take this context. Tom has moved 10 times in 10 years. That's the grind. When Tom moves, he moves upstairs both ways through glass. That's how you have to win a CONCACAF competition to make it worth everything. Okay, if you are listening here on SoccerWise, make sure to go and check out both these shows. Check out Sounder at Heart as well for all your written content around.
You can find them both there, by the way. Like we're all under one roof, so it's okay.
No. Only Ari and Noah are actually under one roof.
Yeah.
Jeremiah pays the bills for this house, but we are together under one roof.
And if you go and listen enough, maybe we could split it out into two separate rooms
There
in
we
one
go.
house. One
It's a
day
one
going
bed.
forward. If you're listening on these platforms, come find us at SoccerWise. We are live talking about MLS at least twice a week on YouTube. Comes out of the podcast. We cover NWSL as well for all your Seattle Reign coverage, and we cover a million other things around soccer. Tom really likes to talk to refs, so we'll do that every once in a while when we get the opportunity. All right, thank you to all of you for joining us, and let's do it again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.